Comrade Sihlezi Balala, the deployee of the ANC, who is responsible for making sure that the ANC resolutions making sure that resolutions Good afternoon, colleagues. Just as Comrade Mahlengi has indicated, we've just finished our commission on basic service, local government, and infrastructure, plus ending load shedding. So these are the subtopics or subheadings that we're dealing with. In the commission, we actually received presentations from the three comrades, plus Comrade Sputla, Comrade Sihle on infrastructure, Comrade Mahlabo on water, and we also got the last one, which was Comrade Sputla on electricity, and the last one on basic service delivery. Those were the items that we focused on, and in the commission itself, we actually agreed that we welcomed first the presentations made by these comrades, and we actually also welcomed the progress that has been done. As you know, that every year we go into these commissions and we come back and we assess ourselves, and eventually in the discussion, we actually acknowledge the progress made by government. We also acknowledge the fact that to date, communities across the country have access to water, sanitation, electricity, housing, and we have created cleaner communities. And that, I want to believe that the media also have noted in most of the communities or in the municipalities. However, Comrade Mahlengi, I would not want to go further in terms of the deliberations. I want to allow these three comrades here to assist and just talk to the specific areas of the discussions that we've had. So we'll start from my left here with Comrade, if you don't mind, Comrade Mahlengi, with Comrade Mahlabo.
Thank you very much to our chair of our commission, Comrade Dainapula, our member of the NEC, and the DSG of the ANC Women's League. On water, we acknowledge that the democratic local government has been at the center We also acknowledge that in the recent past, the Ministry of Water and Sanitation has done an in-depth assessment around the performance of local government when it comes to water and sanitation. Despite the advances that have been made, we acknowledge that there are areas of concern. There is a deterioration in terms of our own reports around the question of the provision of clean, safe drinking water to many South Africans. And there is also a challenge of wastewater systems that are starting to be overflowing, and certain communities living in humane conditions where there is a sewer spillages and there's also pollution into our rivers. But at the very same time, the issue of asset management and the management of water losses. And the Commission acknowledged that there's been an engagement led by the Minister of Water, the Minister of Culture, working with SALCA, with all water services in the country, where a number of resolutions were made. Out of our own assessment, we know now that between 0 and 50% of municipalities that cannot be in a position to ensure that the water that people drink in their own taps is safe for drinking, but at the very same time around issues of asset management, those institutions in a combined number, they run at 105. Then we have agreed that an immediate intervention must be made to support these institutions so that municipalities, they don't violate the right of citizens to have access to water. One of the immediate issues that we have said it must be done between now and the medium term is to deal with the question that municipalities within the law must look at an alternative institution that can provide water and sanitation services right now while they are building their own capacity. For them to be able to do that, they will invoke Section 78 of the Water Services Act, read with other legislation, to do that particular function. And we are directing COGTA, National Treasury, and SALCA in the Department of Water and Sanitation to assist those municipalities. The options they are looking at is to use either one of the municipalities, whether is it a district, whether it's local, whether it's a water board, or any other entity that has the capacity to allow them to discharge this function. At the very same time, they can be in a position over a period of time, depending on their own decision, to ensure that they build their own internal capacity, but also probably creating their own entity. Like you have Johannesburg Water here, whether in Bombela, where there's a concession there, where there's Lulumanzi, you can name them. Because the performance of those municipalities being assisted by capable water providers is the route to go without taking over the responsibility of municipalities. But if that is going to be done, there is a condition to be met. All the water service providers that must be appointed, they must be certificated. In other words, they must be licensed by the Ministry of Water and Sanitation so that we can determine their capacity to deal with those particular issues. The second point we raised was the state of infrastructure and the question of non-revenue water. Municipalities, the infrastructure has gone into decay over a number of years, and they are losing a lot of water. The numbers don't look good. They range from 47%. Others, they run around even 62%. In other words, the water that should be reaching citizens, it doesn't reach citizens. It goes into the ground. But at the very same time, municipalities, they still have to pay for that particular water that they are losing on the system. We also look at issues of illegal connections that are on a rise, but we also look at the issues of the black market where water is being sold. And our decision is that municipalities now, they have a window of opportunity. They are directed that during the budget adjustment, 10% of that money from MIG and possibility of water services infrastructure grant will come into the fore. It will be ring-fenced so that we can deal with issues of water losses. So those people who used to have water yesterday, the tap was running, but today the water is not running. You can guarantee them the assurance of availability and supply, including the issues of management of the system in terms of pressure management, the nightfalls. Those are the key issues that they need to be able to deal with in the billing system and the revenue management. We also dealt with the issues of support. On support, we have said that COGTA is directed with DWS, MESA, and SALCA to assist all municipalities to complete the incomplete projects. At the very same time, where there is no infrastructure, other options of water provisioning, especially the exploration of groundwater and the use of boreholes, in the meantime, must be carried out by government. But on the use of trucking, our preference is that it must be state-led, rather than to use private sector, because there's an exploitation of the system, but it's also there's criminality there. And there's issues around the quality of water that must be looked at. But we have also looked at the issues of refurbishment of infrastructure. And we are also saying that where there are problems around implementation, we might have to reconsider the issues of direct transfers. We'll do indirect transfers so that an entity that is capable, whether it's a water board or any other entity, we should do. The last point that we looked at was the issues of vandalism, thefts, including killings in the water sector. That then we will have to work with law enforcement agencies. There are interruptions that are being there, and whether in terms of procurement, whether in terms of vandalism of infrastructure, and there are a lot of organized criminality that are stopping many of our water projects all over the country on the basis of demanding a certain protection fee. But then the communities will also play their part. That's the summary, Comrade Mahlengi, through the chair, that we've made.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Mahlobo. I am going to ask that local government does the consolidation and that Comrade Sihle should come first. Let's just move the microphones.
No, thanks, Chair of this session. The head of the ANC Communication and Information Department, as well as the spokesperson and all comrades, and greetings to the members of the media. On the side of infrastructure development, the Commission dealt with a number of issues, but firstly welcome the fact that the government is now progressing well with infrastructure investment, especially in roads, human settlement, water, and energy. While these are sectoral or departmental work, the role of infrastructure has been to ensure project packaging, getting funding, and then ensure that the sector department implement. Today, the issue of Umzimvubu Bridge that was talked about almost for 2 decades is no longer a pipe dream, but through this intervention, we have started the process of constructing Umzimvubu. The upgrading of Hazelmere and many other, including the Lesotho water scheme. So it is important that whilst government fund infrastructure through the allocation from the budget, but we become more innovative in packaging these projects. The Commission emphasized that what was highlighted at the plenary by President, which is front-loading, which have seen us delivering the project that is starting now in Northern Cape, should not only be for that project, but be taken throughout the country. And front-loading will help us in social and economic infrastructure. In that, in some cases, you will find that in the budget of human settlement or education, you will not have allocation in that particular year for some of the project. But if you front-load and say your grant in the subsequent years will be going to fund or to pay for the loans acquired through front-loading, we'll then be able to build more schools now, more houses now, and then the conditional grants coming in the subsequent years will then be going to pay for that. So it is a strategic partnership with the private sector. But in a number of municipalities, you find that there are projects, infrastructure projects, that are ready, but municipalities will not have funds for bulk services for those projects. It is therefore important that we engage either in front loading, ensure that the municipality takes their own fund or borrow funds, and then pay that later. With Treasury, we are also looking on options of whether we can allow also the investors to invest in the bulk infrastructure with an intention of recouping that money through rebate going down in the future. So those are key issues. But you would have noticed that the president in the SONA spoke about the rural bridges. We are progressing with the construction of the rural bridges in the 6 provinces where we identify the need. We're saying as the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure continues with that, the district, through the approach of the district development model, in particular the provincial departments of COGTA and Transport, should assemble and coordinate themselves to ensure road maintenance. Road maintenance in rural areas is quite important, and it's not that we will be able to tar all roads in one time. And therefore, maintaining those roads and opening access roads will be quite important for our municipalities. Hence, provincial government departments, whether COGTA or transport in the province, working with districts, will need to expedite that program. I think from our side, I will only highlight that and leave it to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very keen to move with the swiftness that this requires. I'm now going to invite Comrade Park Stow, responsible, of course, for local government interventions within the ANC, to then customize this in relation to the overall mandate of local government and the work we're doing in this regard, drawing on water and sanitation, drawing on basic services, drawing on infrastructure development. Over to you, Comrade Parks. Maybe what we should just do, maybe Comrade Parks should come this side. Thank you. After which we will then have a Q&A, ladies and gentlemen. Over to you, Comrade Parks.
Well, thank you very much, Comrade Mahleng, and good afternoon. Just to say that the Commission looked comprehensively also on matters related to local government, and amongst others identified the opportunities but also the challenges in local government and the need to revise the local government white paper and therefore the architecture of our local government system, its service delivery models and related fiscal architecture of the municipality. So it's an issue that was critically flagged that we are at a point where we need to review the way in which we have designed our local government system and how it functions. I should say that we had significant delegations or the representatives from local government, including SALGA, and a number of mayors in the commission, and representatives from local government. And they raised, amongst others, sharply the issue of the implications of changes in service delivery models on the functioning of local government and its finances. So one of the examples that was raised was, well, as government is mitigating the impact on load shedding, incentivizing rooftop solar, and people and enterprises are moving into alternative energy systems, what are the implications on the finances of local government? So the Commission agreed that it would be important that all those departments and comrades deployed in local government would need to convene urgently to address the issues of the implications of these interventions on local government. I used load shedding and electricity as an example, but issues were raised with regards to water and sanitation and other services, and how we ensure that as we make these decisions, these are balanced with the impact that it's likely to have on local government and its revenue. With regards to service delivery in particular, one of the issues that we've agreed to is that we should urgently reprioritize budgets, including grants, and also budgets in our municipalities to focus on repairs and maintenance of services. So a comprehensive program that looks at repairing potholes, at addressing water leakages, sewer leakages, and other issues of repairs and maintenance. You would know that the bulk of the grants go towards investing in new infrastructure. But the grant framework does allow for repairs and maintenance. So we've said that it is important that this reprioritization happens so that we are able to focus on repairs and maintenance. And the process has already started in the various departments to reprioritize this, working with municipalities and the grants that they receive to ensure that we improve matters around repairs and maintenance of infrastructure. The Commission also supported initiatives, and I think Comrade Mahlobo raised one of these, but supported initiatives of improving expenditure around grants that go to municipalities. Part of what has been identified is the reality that some of our municipalities are not spending the grants, and some of this money is returned to National Treasury or reallocated to municipalities that are spending their grants. But the reality is that the people that are deserving of that infrastructure are deprived of the services that they are supposed to receive. So a number of interventions have been initiated by government. Amongst others, the Department of Water and Sanitation is utilizing Section 63 of the Water Services Act to reprioritize or to reassign how budgets are allocated in those areas where there is under expenditure of these grants to provide bulk water services and reticulation and management of sanitation and reticulation of water, that we should allow that national government and other agencies spend on behalf of the municipalities. So it's a critical intervention that ensures that we identify agencies, water boards and other agencies, including in certain instances district municipalities that have the capacity to do the work, as agencies through which implementation happens and the money is not returned to National Treasury or reallocated somewhere else. Similarly, COGTA has initiated, in terms of the Division of Revenue Act, a process of doing a similar initiative in terms of Schedule 6B of the Division of Revenue Act to convert some of the direct grants into indirect grants, meaning that national government or other agencies would be able to spend on behalf of the municipalities. This is parallel to the process of building capacity and supporting municipalities, and a degree of effort was placed on discussing issues around how we improve support plans and support interventions in local government, including building capacity in local government and soliciting partners to help us build and support municipalities in terms of capacity. But that notwithstanding, we need to ensure that whilst we build this capacity, expenditure happens and infrastructure is available to people and services are delivered. We had a detailed presentation and discussions around load shedding and the interventions around load shedding. In fact, we had a very encouraging presentation from Comrades Booth around initiatives with regards to load shedding. And we are comfortable that the work being done there, as a commission, we're comfortable that the work being done there will make significant impact on load shedding, and some of the reprioritization of budgets to go towards mitigating load shedding is an area that has been identified. An example was made that, in fact, whilst you have gas turbines that necessarily are reliant on diesel for electricity, if you convert some of these into utilizing gas as a means of generating electricity, one, you'd be able to improve the functioning of these turbines, but also that you would be able to reduce the cost and therefore the availability of resources for these turbines to run more regularly and reduce the impact on load shedding. And the last point, and I think Comrade Sihle also raised this point, is that the Commission agreed that it would be important to accelerate processes, including in local government, around front-loading of both future revenue and grants that go towards municipalities, so that you are able to accelerate the implementation of bulk infrastructure projects in municipalities and enable them. Because we have a local government system that allows municipalities to raise capital from the debt capital markets, but most of our municipalities do not have a balance sheet that would be able to carry these loans. So we'll need to look at alternative ways of these municipalities raising capital to invest in infrastructure, and front-loading as a means of doing that has been identified as one of the interventions. Thank you very much.
Not sure if this is working. I'm wondering, is this working? Doesn't look like it is working. So I'm going to try and maybe just stand in the interest of moving this thing as swiftly as possible, as opposed to moving the mics. Thank you very much, comrades, members of the NEC. May I then request that we turn to members of the media, and I'm just going to stand in the interest of getting this thing to happen a bit more seamlessly. May I request that we then start with the Q&A, and I will start inconveniently to my right. I will start with News 24 and then come to SABC, and then I will move in this particular direction. We'll have the first round. News 24.
I have a question about water and infrastructure. Yesterday we heard the speaker speak about how urgent it is for the ANC to get its business in order because the election is around the corner. How does ANC plan? What's the plan to convince South Africans who have muddy waters coming out of their taps? South Africans who have to fix their own potholes in their communities, understanding this is not a local government election, but still. What's the plan to convince South Africans to actually vote for the ANC, considering the time approaching to the election?
Thank you very much. I suspect that is to you, Comrade Mahlobo. We could make a note, right?
Thank you very much for raising this. The question is in line with my colleagues in Tamba, because if we look at various municipal roads that you travel through in the country, you find, which has become a business opportunity, to tell you, where you find young South Africans fixing potholes, standing on the side of the road, expecting a 2 rands or a 5 rands, or if you are affluent, a 20 rands, to help them as they fix those potholes. What is your immediate task in addressing the roads and transportation infrastructure within the country? Then secondly, on the water provision issue, I'm from a small village in Appelspoort. People there will end up for days on end not getting water. Then you see these trucks of aqua trends running throughout the entire municipality of Mshwati and also Ndwebe. What is the main issue when it comes to water provision in the rural areas? Who is tampering with the pumps that are meant to pump the water through to these specific rural areas? And what is the immediate task of dealing with these people who own these water trucks, who end up destroying public infrastructure in order to get these tenders rolled out? And then lastly, to Mr. Paxdal, Johannesburg, where you used to be a mayor, in this financial year, the adjustment budget is slashing its budget by about R1 billion. What is the immediate task of rescuing these municipalities that are seemingly cash-strapped and not getting revenue from their customers. What is the immediate task of resolving that issue? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to take just one question, and then we will have the second bite, unless perhaps we should just try and take them as many as possible so that you manage the time. Yeah, and some of them may be similar. So I will start with EMCA and then move on to newsroom. Kule?
The jobs on ENCA. Minister, you spoke about the issue of organized crimes facing some of these water entities. Is this becoming a concern? We know that there was an executive at the Indian municipality looking for a water entity. I think it's Mr. Chaman was shot dead as well. Just yesterday, there was an executive working for Rand Water also shot dead by brazen criminals who went to a wall and just opened fire. Is this becoming a concern? But two, what are you doing in terms of looking into the issues affecting the Equatorial municipality? I was there last week attending the council meeting. It seems as though the MMC for finance of the municipality, Mr. Kunda, could not table the draft AG report as well. As a result, some of the outstanding financial statements. This is very important since the money must be used for the municipality. And if by now this has been drafted, what does it say about what we are seeing coming out of these municipalities? Are there any interventions put in place to ensure stability in these municipalities? And what is the update on the issue of the Hamaska water? The residents there have been complaining again to say the water coming out of the tap is still brown. There isn't any clear communication from the municipality. There were promises made to resolve that issue. In fact, Minister, one of the deputy minister was there as well to say that there will be interventions in place. So what's happening, Mr. Mashawa, about that whole process as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just to build on the question that was asked by my colleague Ole to the NEC member, Mr. Mashawa, you indicated that there's concerns around organized crime and criminality when it comes to water. What informs this? Have you received reports or complaints around this? We just want to get a sense of why you are saying that. And to Mr. Dow, we just wanted to find out, in the issue of load shedding, you spoke about being confident that the matter is being addressed and having received a report from the electricity minister. We heard the president yesterday indicating that it could be in a few months that we might see the end of load shedding. Are you also that confident, or can we see this load shedding going on for a lot longer than this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to now proceed. Let me go to the front, check if there's anything in the front. I'll start with Melon Guardian, and I'll come to my brother over here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siala. This one is directly to you. I think it was last year when we used the statement for us about the issue of both the fencing there, and you have said that people will be responsible for the waste of money that was done for that fence. Recently, we saw the PA go there chasing people away because it seemed like the fence is not in there. Is your department working towards ensuring that there is some sort of fencing in the borders?
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Tavisoko from Eyewitness News. Just on the question of Deputy Minister, the question of water, of establishing these water board authorities, struggling municipalities, you said they have to be accredited by the Department of Water and Sanitation. I just want to ask, is it a requirement that they are state-owned, or can the private sector also establish these water authorities and sell the water back to the municipality? That's my first question. And my second question, it's regarding, it's directed to Mr. Dow. It's regarding the budget reprioritization. I think it's not a secret that a lot of municipalities are struggling with the revenue. And I just want to ask if maybe there has been some sort of appetite to release maybe some assets that do not relate to service delivery. I'll make an example. The Tshwane municipality has sort of opened wonderful airports and two of its electricity stations to be run by the private sector. You look at the Tegui, where it spends a lot of money ensuring that Tushar Marine stays afloat. Is there, in terms of for saving money, is there maybe an appetite to look at releasing some state-owned assets that maybe do not directly impact service delivery? And just my last question is on coalitions. Obviously, it's local government. Did you discuss in coalitions that you're currently in? Are you happy with the coalition that the ANC is involved in across the country? And is there any changes that you're going to be making? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will just take the liberty to say we have not discussed coalitions, so we will not be engaging in that specific item. We're limiting it to basic services, infrastructure, and local government. May I take other hands? Oh, got a hand over there. Yes, go ahead, Mandela.
Thank you. I'm Kawalo Mawala with you. Mr. Tau, on the point of municipalities not being able to spend their money, I mean, they are not running themselves. The majority of them are run by the ANC. If the reflection go further to say, perhaps we have deployed the wrong people, and then the one about you made a point about the very structural nature of how municipalities are designed, being at the center of the current problems of service delivery. Is this the ANC now saying you want to review the whole thing and re-establish municipalities in a different form? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to have a look at whether there is any other colleague at the back who wishes to say something, so that we just take one round and we have comprehensive responses. I see now there is a forest of hands. So let me start with somebody there right at the back. Please go ahead. So I just come see you in your house, please.
It's good.
Oh, all right, thank you. Thank you.
Just clarity, maybe on your side, Martin, before I could ask the questions. When you say conditions we have discussed, my thinking is that basic services are still affected by the same conditions, coalitions that we have discussed. So I thought it was appropriate maybe that it could have been part of the discussion. But nonetheless...
No, thank you very much for that, but I am indicating here as the anchor of the session that we are not engaging on coalitions today. We've done that a lot in various media briefings. Thank you. Let's continue. Question?
Nonetheless, my question is to Mr. Fox as well as, actually let me say the three gentlemen because if I try and lose the question that I'm going to ask, we have seen the recent floods in KZN where we have seen that communities were affected badly by the floods. So I just want to find out from Mr. Fox that he mentioned initially when he was interviewed that they've done an assessment and they're waiting for the president to make a decision in terms of whether they're declaring the area as disaster or a plan going forward. So my question is there any foreseeable plan going forward in terms of addressing them? I'm raising in a sense that some of the municipalities, they end up using the budgets that are not allocated just to counter over the crisis that they're facing. So is there any plan going forward? Also, on the very same floods, Minister of Copter did concede that they were warned about this 7 years ago, which it's quite worrying that nothing was done about it. Though it was a big audio, but she's saying that on record. The question that I'm asking is, did you guys discuss the fact that obviously there's supposed to be expansion of infrastructure in terms of ends and others. Were those things being taken into consideration? So I think there Mr. Matobo can do as well, because it's one of the issues that really affect us, because we're not moving forward instead of things that could have been addressed in the coming forward. Thank you
very much. I will just come back to you and just see if there are any new interventions. Okay, back to you, Luma.
So this one is about the water leakages. I mean, if you say 47% to 62% of this water is lost through in the ground, have you, as government, engaged local municipalities on fixing the infrastructure? Because one of the issues that water had a problem with is that a lot of water that they provide to municipality gets lost through the system without even getting to the municipalities itself. Have you engaged the municipalities on how to fix these issues? And the other issue is rainwater has been complaining that because they're a self-funding entity, the issue of them not being paid by municipalities is really getting problematic for them. What are the consequences, or what are governments going to do to ensure that municipalities do pay this money to rainwater? Because we know that water is a basic service, a human right. You can't necessarily say that water can't necessarily go to municipalities and say we're going to shut the water because they're not paying us. So what is it that this government are doing to ensure that we actually force these municipalities to try and start paying these debts that they owe to
Thank you very much, Ms. Guardian. I now have to move to the floor.
The previous elections gave us case studies of municipalities where the ANC uses power and then a new administration comes in, for example, the JNK. In speaking about basic services and local government, did the ANC discuss the fact that in these municipalities, services started to improve? Residents spoke about how billing started being solved, they see potholes getting repaired. It seemed that services were getting delivered after the new administration came in. Did the ANC discuss this at all? Did you guys talk about how this is going to play out or impact how people vote going into the election, if at all?
Thank you very much. I want to check if there's, I see SABC.
Ngicela ukubuza isiZulu ngizobuza wena babukhuzi. Kanti umyalezo lo uphuma kwabantu bakaceza bathi umphakathi wakaceza ku-Ward 4 uthathe isinqumo sokuzakhela kabusha indlela yokuhamba emva kweminyaka emithathu bengenalo ibloko kwaDuvela. Umbuzo kwaDuvela ekwaceza kwa-Ward 4. Basically bathi bacela usizo ukuthi uhulumeni ungenelele ukuthi kulungiswe lo mgwaqo baze basenda levini beyilungisela lo mgwaqo. Njengomphathiswa we-public works ngazi nobudlelwane ongqongqoshe wezokuthutha esifundazweni uMhlobo bengidlulisa lo myalezo wabantu bakaceza.
Siyabonga. May I just establish if there are any members of the committee who still wish to say something?
Yeah, just the last one. Just the reaction, Mr. Tawon, the situation at City of Twan where somebody just said she's going on a trip, never showed up on the day of that particular trip, and then took a trip, cash, pocket money of 10,000, which she completely forgot to. I've never seen government at national level commenting. Now this person is a deputy mayor presiding over billions in the city of Twan. Whether it's standard of accountability, we just forget 10,000. She says she's willing to pay for it now.
All right, thank you very much. I assume that we are done with a very, very long list of very engaging questions from yourselves, colleagues and media. I am going to start with infrastructure. If that's okay, I see that the bulk of the questions have a lot to do with the local government, state of local government, and water. So immediately after Comrade Kuzin, we will move to Comrade Mashomo, and then Comrade Pass will then respond to a number of those questions related to local government. And then Comrade Diana will just make final remarks, if that's okay. Thank you very much.
No, thanks once more. And thanks for such a long opportunity given to the media to engage with us. And I believe that is in the interest of transparency from the ANC side. Maybe let me start with the last question. I'm sure Siamtanda was answered by the two last questions from Samgelo and or Mr. Masego and the last question. So someone is appointed as a deputy mayor, having that bad conduct, and up to today, there is no progress in that municipality. Services are not better as you would want to see. So that answers you. In these municipalities that are co-governed by the DA and others, we have only seen instability. Governance is deteriorating. You yourself, you are attesting to the situation of Tswai. So it doesn't mean you must ask us, you see for yourself. And that's why we are not debating coalition, but we debate that services must go to the people. Mr. Masego asked us, there is a road and community in Wateza, Ward 4, have resolved that they must build the road for themselves. And I'm sure all of us here will know that there is what is called N1, and those are national roads. And they are the responsibility of the National Department of Transport. There are municipal roads, there are provincial roads. And I'm sure, Mr. Masego, that you will know that the provincial roads in that area have been constructed well. There's a road from Melmoth till Fryhead. There is a road that nobody ever thought it would be constructed from Hluhluwe till Nongo. And definitely what you are asking about, it's a municipal road. Now, we have to ask the mayor, and you know that the mayor is not coming from the ANC there. But on top of that, as I will meet MEC Hlomuga tomorrow, I will raise the matter on behalf of the people of Wateza and plead that maybe through the DDM we should see whether we can intervene through COGTA, maybe to ensure that that road is gravel and it's improved, as I said earlier. So the three questions have proved that there is nothing better that the opposition have done in these areas we are talking about, but there is a need for the national and provincial government to intensify work to ensure that services are improved. Now let me answer questions that relate to us, maybe one which I think partly Mr. Tau will deal with will be property. With regard to state-owned properties, we are engaged in the Operation Bring Back, where we're taking out people who are illegally occupying those properties. We're taking up those properties, take them out to the market for the private sector to renovate and see whether we can use them as government or for commercial purposes. The Commission further resolved that we must expropriate buildings that are not occupied and those that are decayed in the inner cities. And as the Department of Public Works, we are working on the expropriation bill, and together with municipalities, we will not hesitate to expropriate bills that are compromising our inner cities. The last is the question of bail breach. Yes, the issue of bail breach has been our mandate. We are grateful that the court have vindicated us that the two service providers who did that work in bail breach should, one, they should pay back some of the money that they've got, and the court have affirmed our position in that regard. We are now working to ensure that we push Treasury to blacklist those companies from doing government with, from doing work with government, and we are firm on that. We are not going to tolerate a situation where people will be given work on behalf of government and they do shoddy work. So we are firm. But with regard to the improvement now of the bail breach, that function, we devolved it to the Department of Home Affairs, specifically to the new agency, the Border Management Agency. They are working, and bail breach is part of the 6 projects that have been advertised to go as part of the PPP. And the department concerned is working on that, together with other breaches that they have announced. And we believe that before the end of the year, the work would be starting in those areas. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Comrade Kuzeni. We will then have responses related to water and sanitation.
Yeah, there are too many questions. It sounds like today you are responding as people deployed. Firstly, Comrade Mahlenge, I think Comrade Kuzen has responded to what Siamtanda has raised. On your last question, I stay in Tshwane. And in Tshwane, you know how it has deteriorated. Deteriorated in a very worse state, including the incident when lives were lost. And yesterday, we had a meeting as a ministry to engage with them when we look at their water systems, how much pollution are they causing, their wastewater works. I'm not going to make it as an item here. And how they are polluting even smaller municipalities in Northwest, the treatment cost that they are supposed to pay these people from Northwest just to treat water. But we are intervening there. Those people from the other parties, they've been in charge of Tshwane for more than 6 to 7 or 8 years. And you can actually go and check the happiness index there. That's why we're coming closer, working with them to say we can't sit idly when the rights of citizens are being violated around access to water and sanitation. I can only speak on that issue. The very same thing you know in Free State, in Kwakwa, Maluti, Apofong. The situation is worse. Until we had to go in there as a ministry and COGTA to ensure that people do have access to water now. And there's a program, Comrade Tau, that we're working in terms of stabilization. The myth to say that to have a new player running government, it actually means improvement. The empirical evidence is on the other round. There are many examples we can quote if we do find time. The issue of water that comes out of the taps that looks brackish, in other words, has problems, is colored, is on the basis that some of the treatment system, especially the filtration, they don't do well. One of the things we discussed there are certain municipalities that are so dysfunctional that our government, through the Ministry of COGTA and the ANC, have said they are a priority municipality. We have agreed that we are going to have to support them so that the water comes back to the standard in terms of compliance, whether in terms of South African national standard, which is 241 drinking water. We will have to buy them treatment chemicals. Some of them, they don't have chlorine. We have to be able to use either the district use the water boards, that at least there is chlorine there. You don't drink water that has microbial content or bacteria that is there, because you will get sick. But at the very same time, some of them, they've run out of things like your filters, just to fill the water to trap all these other things. And we've agreed that we are going to support them. But the support will also go beyond where there is no infrastructure. For an example, what would we do that at least they do have some tankers that are owned by the state, either at a district level, that can be dispatched to these municipalities. It's a quick win, and we can be able to do it. And we know that we're abstracting water from the hydrants that are of good quality. That's what we'll do. Other municipalities, the sewer is running in the street because there is a blockage of the main holes. Then you can be able to get the jet trucks so that at least they can be doing the unblocking. There is a clear plan. In our engagement with all of them, without exception, we've given them that by the end of February, they must be, all of them, giving us a plan to say how do they turn around the issues of quality, around wastewater management. And there's no municipality in the country, I must say, that is actually exempted from supplying that particular plan, because even those that have a blue water status is one of the issues that we've said. The issue of villages, Masego, that don't have water, there are two aspects that we've taken. One of the aspects is that in certain communities, you can't be able to build bulk infrastructure immediately. It takes time. There are processes you must plan. In the short term, we shall be able to do spring protection. In other words, we must be able to explore more groundwater. And more groundwater in many communities has been untapped. But we need to be able then to ensure that we deploy groundwater system, which is at the boreholes, including the issues of the storage facilities that are temporary. Any tank, you can't be able to put there. But we must worry about quality. Because if we don't attend to the issue of quality, remember there's a densification of communities, and some they are using pit toilets. They might be affecting the water underground in terms of aquifers. Therefore, the quality will be one of the issues that we'll look at. But the tankering, in as much as is not a desirable mechanism, in the meantime, we are going to continue to use tankering. The issue that we must deal with is that these tankers, the water is not for sale. That is very important. It's not for sale. Secondly, the water must be of good quality. Nobody must be able to be affected either by the water because someone has thrown a pampas or any other foreign object there. And there is an issue of the abuse, like we are saying, by other companies. You could see some people, they think this matter is commercial. And that's why the decision, the ANC is saying, at least buy them. If local can't buy them, let's have them at the district level. Then the district can dispatch in areas where there's a support, there is a plan how they're going to run, so that you can deal with the issues of vandalism. Maybe let me deal with the issues of criminality, Paul. The issue of criminality is not only affecting water, it's affecting the entire, the issues of infrastructure as a whole, which is our bedrock of our economy. The attack on infrastructure, the issues of vandalism, including the issues of killing recently. Even our water sector is not an exception. And you could see it's on the rise. It's a sabotage. And it's an economic sabotage. And it's also a counter-revolution. It can't be called progressive way of doing business. You could see when they do illegal mining, they are affecting either the gas pipe or water pipes underground. It's the biggest issue. And they expose us to many risks, whether environmental, issues of human safety, you can name all of them. And the decision we've made, we will have to work with law enforcement agencies, have a proper security plan, a security plan that you can use artificial intelligence, including remote sensing, where you can monitor the infrastructure. Actually, you monitor it remotely so, without actually doing some of that. But at the very same time, you can then deploy the rapid response unit. In water, there is no possibility that we can have all the money for security. Imagine how many boreholes we have. How many pumps do we have? When we got deployed and fully to help, remember that 14 pump stations completely stripped off billions of rands in terms of that asset. And money that we should be using now to deliver services is being spent on security. We will have to be able to deal with those issues, and the plan must also include communities, because communities, there is also the issues of involvement. But to deal with the issues of internal job, those people who are working in the infrastructure environment, we have to be very hard on them. They can't have privacy. We must be able to vet them, do lifestyle audit, check how do they move from rags to riches. Some of them, they have become conduit for business. They don't even want promotions. And many of these valves and many of this infrastructure, people who are not in this, people who are outside the system, how will they know that there's a valve there? How will they know that the pump station is in that particular way? And how should we use some of the issues of technology? But that's how, in a security plan, including operations that are intelligence driven and so forth. In water, indeed, we have lost people, and our condolences to the family of the group executive yesterday. At this stage, we don't know whether it is related to water or not. But we know now that at Teguini, they have lost a number of people working in the water. In certain water boards, certain people have been killed. In certain instances, our projects are being stopped because there are people who claim to be business people. When they just come in and demand from each contractor a certain quantum of money in dealing with those issues. On the issues of the issues of water providers, our government says what we need to do, it does not necessarily mean it must be a water board. It can be another municipality. An example, we know in KZN, you have Zululand that is supposed to be supporting in terms of delivery of water through Mandlakazi scheme that must give it to Umkanyagud. You have here Tshwane that must give water to, what do we call it, Tembisilean. Therefore, if another municipality has a capacity, they enter into a proper agreement that this is our water service provider of choice. But we are saying, let's put it right. Some of the concessions and these agreements that are entering into, if you don't do a verification of the capability, and when they've been appointed, then they come in, they don't perform. That's what we are looking at. But they have a lot of choices that they need to be able to look at, including private sector. It's not for the first time that private sector must come in. There is a concession. You go to Mpumalanga, there's an example of Slulumans. And it has been working well. And the quality of water, those of us who are actually residents of Mbombela, we know the quality is very good. You go to areas like JP Marks and Matlosana, we have an entity there called Valwart. There is a lot of improvement. Therefore, the issue around concessions of build, operate, train and transfer, build, operate and own, those are some of the options that we are looking for. The issues of the leaks, we have raised them with municipalities. That's why the report calls the no drop. The no drop is about non-revenue water. It's about asset management. Therefore, at the end of February, municipalities must say, what do they do to manage that? It's more about asset management because you can introduce pressure-reducing valves so that you can manage it. You can do the issues of the night flows, you can be able to manage it. But at the very same time, you have to be able to fix the leaks because that's why Comrade Tau says a certain percentage is mandatory now. Those pipes that are leaking, they can use the money that is there. They can be able to do that, and then from there, they can be able to get revenue, including sorting out billing by metering systems. Those are some of the issues that Comrade Matleng we need to say. On water dams and others, the list is too long. Go to the Western Cape, there's a Clan Williams Dam, we're actually extending it now. So the farmers can do, they can be able to provide, to get more. Go to Tzanini Dam, there's a raising of that particular dam. Sihle spoke about Polikhali Dam because phase 2 must be coming on board. KwaZulu-Natal, especially Durban, with all those districts that are there, Umkomazi, we've concluded all the issues. We're going to the markets. Even in Bombela, there is going to be the building of a new dam there. In terms of ensuring water security, all plans are in place and how the funding is being arranged, whether through the PFI, whether through going to the markets, there are these many options that are there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm still audible, but thank you very much, colleagues. We will now end off with responses on local government. And the chair of the commission will then make final remarks, and then we will be done. Over to you, Comrade Parks.
Thank you very much, Chair. So Siamtanda asks, how are we going to persuade people to vote for the ANC based on service delivery? And I would have said, maybe we should read the Stats SA report in relation to services that are accessed by people historically disadvantaged in this country, and the number of people that did not have access to potable water, did not have access to decent sanitation, did not have access to houses, did not have access to electricity. And we quantify and say to the people of South Africa, this is the record of the ANC in ensuring access to services, basic services for our people. And this is a significant issue because you cannot simply just decide that we will ignore the fact that, in fact, this government has delivered housing to the people of this country, particularly the poor, and ensure that they have access to free housing opportunities in this country, that there are social housing initiatives in this country, that in fact this is a government that says to its people that you cannot be deprived access to water, sanitation and electricity because you cannot afford. Therefore, we will introduce measures of free basic water, free basic electricity, so that even the poor can access water, sanitation, electricity, and so on. So there's a record of this government, there's a record of the ANC and its performance. And it is that performance that would be able to demonstrate to the people of this country and say, this is the record of the ANC, this is the work that we have done. Now coming to your latter question, which is linked to a question that was raised by Samkelo in relation to Johannesburg. I recall a press conference in 2018 where we announced, and I was chairperson of the ANC in Johannesburg at the time and leader of the ANC caucus, where we said, the finances of the city of Johannesburg are progressively deteriorating and will impact services delivered by the city because the Democratic Alliance is collapsing the city. Now you say, no. Actually, the opposite is true. Now we can demonstrate where the problem, the genesis of the problem, where it started, and how we identified it, brought it to the attention of South Africans to say, this is the reality of what is happening in the city of Johannesburg. The same deterioration is happening in Tshwane. And we can see it, we witness it. In fact, you live in Gauteng, so I imagine you feel it every day. But it might be difficult to relate to, in fact, the genesis of the problem of the collapse of these municipalities and where it started and why we're experiencing what we're experiencing today. So the question Samkelo asks is, if the city is slashing its budget by R1 billion, what do you say? And I wanted to say to him, it's just that he's out. I seem to recall he was at that press conference where we said this city's finances are being compromised. And inevitably, when the ANC comes back, it will have to make difficult decisions, very difficult decisions, to be able to mitigate the impact that has been done on the finances of the city. But I should say that in relation to what we discussed in the commission, we have identified 30 priority municipalities. And amongst those, we have identified the metros because of the challenges that are being experienced. So we've identified the metros. It would include Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, and other metros, where we are saying, well, we need to provide direct support and ensure that we are able to assist these metros and mitigate the pressure that these municipalities are facing. There was an earlier question by Samkelo related to issues of repairs and maintenance and potholes. We did report, and in my presentation I did indicate that we have agreed to reprioritize budgets in municipalities, including the grants that we are allocating to municipalities and now almost converting into national government, that is being provided by national government to municipalities so that you are able to address issues of repairs and maintenance in municipalities. And already a process has started where this intervention is being made. Now, Commission said, no, you need to accelerate this implementation of the program and increase the budgets towards repairs and maintenance. So it's a decision that has been made in commission and will be presented to plenary as we go there later this afternoon. The issue around the finances in Ekurhuleni and the report, I have not received that report yet, but the most immediate, and it is an important issue to take into account, we will have to receive a direct report from the provincial government, because the primary agency, in line with the principles of subsidiarity of the Constitution of the Republic, the primary responsibility of oversight in the first instance is that of provincial government. But on the basis of the issue that you have raised, we will immediately ensure that COGTA investigates the circumstances of that report, whether it will be processed and what the implications are, and should be able to do something about that. In the commission, certainly the report that we received was very encouraging with regards to measures to deal with load shedding. But the commission also said it is equally important that we identified measures through which local government, as distributors of electricity, can contribute towards mitigating the impact of load shedding on the demand side, because local government is the primary distributor of electricity in the country. Of course, there's ESCOM distribution, but local government is a huge role player in this regard. So we've also identified measures to enable local government to contribute towards the reduction of the impact of load shedding as a result of interventions on the distribution side. So certainly I think the confidence of the President was shared by the Commission. On issues around reprioritization of budgets and the role of the private sector, we have identified the need, particularly in instances where you are not dealing with core functions of service delivery, to leverage capital from the private sector, including other mechanisms of partnering with the private sector to accelerate implementation of programs. But the ANC's policy and position is quite clear that, in fact, government must remain the primary provider of basic services to the people of this country, because we cannot risk a situation where people do not have access to services on the basis of commercial decisions. So that matter about basic services being provided by government in particular is a position that we have already pronounced on as the ANC, but we certainly have appetite to ensure that we mobilize an array of partners in the implementation of programs. With regards to our deployees, the local government intervention task team that has been established by the NEC is currently focusing the bulk of its energy on improving quality of services and the performance of local government in relation to grants, in relation to the support that's provided by various departments. But part of our task would be to work with provinces to review the performance of our own deployees in local government. So it will be part of the task that we undertake as a task team. But I should say the immediate task was how do we stabilize issues around service delivery, and that's what's occupying the task team currently. I should say when we're talking about revising the white paper, we are not revising the Constitution. So the mandate of local government as provided in the Constitution remains. What we're talking about is to revise the architecture, the framing, the policies around local government to identify where there are gaps and how we need to improve those gaps, where there are systemic issues and how we need to improve that. So it's a comprehensive process that would be undertaken to deal with that. I think the issue of disasters, you would know that in fact, disasters have been declared, and there are different levels of disaster. So sometimes when a disaster is declared, it can be declared as a local disaster, and therefore interventions are primarily from local government. When there is a provincial disaster, it would be in terms of its proclamation. And when there's a national disaster, as we've experienced recently, it is the responsibility of all spheres of government to ensure that we reprioritize the respective budgets of departments to mitigate the disaster, because that's how the disaster management framework and policies of our country work. So what COGTA does is it allocates emergency response money But it is incumbent upon the municipality, the province, and national government departments to reprioritize to mitigate the impact of disaster. We have also ensured that we review the extent to which there's been under expenditure in certain areas where disaster resources have been allocated so that we are able to mitigate that. And it's an issue that, in fact, the Commission reflected on to ensure that we are able to deal with it. Going forward, it is about revising the overall disaster management policy. It's a process is underway in COGTA to revise disaster management and take a disaster risk reduction approach to dealing with disaster management. It shouldn't always be that you have a disaster and you respond there. It is about how do we mitigate, we anticipate, mitigate possible disasters even before they happen, and where you work with communities to be able to take action where we know there will be a flood, but you need to evacuate people on time. Those are the measures that are now being introduced into the new policy. I think the points have been made around water losses and rent water. I should say that there is a discussion currently underway led by the Department of Water and Sanitation and rent water with regards to how, and in fact we're looking at that as a pilot initiative around how you can mitigate the impact of non-payment of municipalities to rent water and other water ports. So there is a process underway to ensure that you're able to mitigate that. It is in line with the principles of saying, how do we reduce debt that municipalities owe to water ports, but protect the sustainability of these entities going forward? And those are the principles that have been worked on. And I know that Comrade Mahlobo did not want to, I didn't share the details, just shared the principles so that by the time the policy is announced,
But water will flow.
the water will flow. By the time the intervention is finalized, government would be able to make the necessary pronouncements. But an issue of mitigating debt owed by municipalities is an area that did receive attention, including the ESCOM debt and municipalities that have applied for write-off in line with the ESCOM debt. Thank you very much.
Opule just through Sismashing. We will give you a time as a department to give you feedback on Amanskra, the latest. Yeah.
Thank you very much for those very comprehensive responses from our deployees and from members of the Commission, NEC members. I am going to ask the Chair of the Commission, Comrade Diana Pule, to just make one final remark, and then we will end the press briefing.
Okay, thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi, and thank you to the three gentlemen, the members of the NEC, for the responses that they gave back to the media. And I would like to say thank you very much to the men and women of the media for the opportunity that you gave us to come and make a presentation and respond to your questions in relation to our commission. I'm glad, actually, Mahlengi, that Comrade Park spoke to the census report, because that speaks to all the issues that relate to service delivery, especially basic service delivery to the people of South Africa by the government of the ANC. And I must also indicate that I think Comrade Mahlobo did not speak to the issue around the water summit, that they had a water summit as a department where municipalities, all of them were there, and that they looked at how they are going to navigate the issue around water delivery in all the communities. And the last part, Comrade Mahlengi, is to just indicate that in the commission itself, we did have comrades who sit in the monitoring and evaluation. These media houses and our colleagues here in the media can actually hold us to our commitments that we're making from time to time, because even ourselves, we do make sure that we monitor our work that is done through a government, ANC-led government, and we make sure that we monitor these departments, we monitor at a local level, at all spheres of government. We do make sure that we monitor, and therefore we once again want to appreciate the fact that government, the ANC-led government, is doing a lot of work in the communities. And of course, we accept and we agree as the African National Congress that as much as we've done so much, there is still much to be done. It is us who are accepting that, because indeed this government led by the ANC does report to the ANC from time to time. Once more, I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity that you gave us to make sure that we respond to the questions. We remain available through you, Comrade Mahlengi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Diana. Thank you very much. We had to release Comrade Sihle for report drafting reasons, but I do wish to underscore what has been said by the panel here, that let us look at evidence of the performance of the ANC-led government 30 years on. Let us look at what data says through the authoritative census data, and when we have these engagements. But I do want to thank members of the NEC, of the Commission, for clarifying matters. We are available to avail them for engagement with members of the media on a one-on-one basis immediately after this, before we go for the next live briefing, which you will be advised on, that will be looking at the economy, that we're looking at jobs, and that we're looking at all of those. So I would like to do that before that gets to happen. With that said, members of the media, the briefing is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.